Hey Candace, you are officially an anti-Semite. Yes, I watched your Tucker Carlson video. I watched your interview that was so sophisticated and intelligent in the ways that you manipulated everyone to think that you're just somebody who's very truthful. You're just a mom in a basement who doesn't happen to have one of the world's most impactful podcasts. You're not just one of the most media influential people in the world. You're just an innocent woman who really cares about truth, and the truth just always leads you to the fact that they they control everything. They control the politicians. They control Trump and Zelensky and Macron. They control the money. They control Sigmund Freud. They control psychology. They're pedophiles. They're baby haters. They're child haters. They're child molesters. They're child murderers. They're the worst type of people you could ever imagine. They can own the media. They own everything negative in the world comes and stems from them. They have all the power. And yes, I know it was super intelligent that you didn't really point out that they are the Jews. You just built this narrative across every topic that you spoke about with Tucker whilst smiling and giggling with your very well presented body, that you are just somebody who is really, really nice. You're just trying to figure out what's going on. And at the end, you mentioned, yes, they hate me, and I'm talking about Israel because Israel's bad. And thank God the left and the right have united against this hatred of Israel. We finally seen the truth about this country. We came from PragerU. Me, the most Israel-loving person, now sees the light. I heard it. I watched it all. I understood it all. I saw what you were doing. Unbelievably sophisticated, by the way. Kudos to you. You don't just become one of the most powerful female political commentators in the world by being an idiot who just looks for the truth. You manipulated the facts very, very, very intelligently, and I'll give you credit for that. It was honestly a masterpiece in anti-Semitism in a way that nobody could actually claim that you're anti-Semitic, but just in a way that you've insinuated enough to make sure that your millions and millions of followers and listeners who don't really know much about Jews listen to it and think, oh, she has a point. Your arguments were so unbelievably one-sided. It was so interesting. You mentioned Harvey Weinstein not really being a felon. And yes, of course you managed to drop in different facts about how, look, I talked to a Jew. I was willing to fight for Harvey Weinstein, so I can't actually be anti-Semitic despite the fact that everybody claims that against me because everybody hates me. Everybody's trying to bring me down. But you didn't. You didn't mention the fact that, I don't know, Qatar were the ones who brought out all of Harvey Weinstein's content because they're trying to control the Western narrative. You totally forgot to mention that with Tucker Carlson, which is interesting to me. Why did Qatar and Saudi Arabia not come up when you spoke about Israel, when you spoke about the fact that Israel is causing and playing Hunger Games with the children because we hate children so much? You forgot to mention Hamas and the war that's going on and the entire context for that argument. It was so interesting to see how you mentioned so many things, but forgot to mention so much of the context around it, which would have been the fair and right thing to do. It would have presented an argument for people to be able to figure it out for themselves, but instead you manipulated it to sound like people are kind of coming to their own assumptions whilst you were placing those assumptions out clearly on the table, all while claiming that you're just somebody who only cares about truth and integrity. You only care about truth and integrity. You even love people who have masks on, who support COVID, something that you're so adamantly against, because they are truthful and they have integrity. Once again, insinuating that the Israelis, you called out the Babylon Bee, you called out so many different Jewish characters who are, at the end of the day, the negative people, the bad people. You were very, very clear. Your hatred towards lawyers, your hatred towards everything that's going on, it was all directed towards the Jewish people. But here's my message to you. Because unfortunately for you, as powerful as you are, and that was, I think, if I remember correctly, your advice to Trump, don't lose the people, don't fool the people, because, you know, at the end of the day, big people can become very small. Well, that's exactly what is about to happen to you. You see, we, the Jewish people, are a miracle. I know your argument about mutating anti-Semitic viruses. I know what you call out to be this thing that can't really be true because you believe in definitive arguments. But the thing about the Jewish people is that we are nothing but a miracle. We have been persecuted by the likes of you and by the likes of people way more powerful than you for years and years and years and years. And yet we are the only thing that survives. We are the thing that miraculously, despite the anti-Semitism, we survive. And that's the message that I think you're missing. You're missing the fact that anti-Semitism is here to remind the Jewish people of their power, of their abilities, and their obligation to change the world. You look at the fact that the Jewish people have influence, and you can't understand it. So you think, in your typical conspiracy theorist mindset, that it must be just that, a conspiracy theory. It must be that we are all combined and united, trying to figure out how to dominate America and take over. And whilst the reality couldn't be further from the truth. Number one, we are not a united people. That's part of why anti-Semitism comes. Anti-Semitism comes to teach the Jewish people that it doesn't matter who you are and what you believe, which political spectrum you are part of. Hashem, our God, is going to remind us that being a Jew is more important than all of that. We are not united. We do not have a big plan. And that is our biggest mistake. That's why enemies like you come up to be. That's how people like you get power. The problem is that we will outlast you and we will outlive you because the Jewish people always do. You've chosen the wrong side of history to be on, Candace. And I know it's an unfortunate thing to hear and something that you're really, really reticent to believe. You don't want to know the fact that the people who fight the Jewish people always lose. You will always lose. You told Trump to not go big and then become small and become irrelevant. That is exactly what's going to happen to you in the name of relevance, in the name of money making, and in the name of being controversial and being somebody tremendous that people listen to. You have lost your way. And I don't know if it's anything to do with your Christian cult. Potentially it is. But the reality is as such that if you don't choose to be on the side of the Jewish people, if you don't choose to connect to the miracle that is the Jewish people, to see Israel as a state that is fighting terror, we are on the forefront of fighting against something evil, something that you claim to be fighting. If you don't understand that that's the Jewish people's mission, and if you don't get on our side and help us, then your downfall is coming too. This is not a threat. It is not something that I am capable of doing. It is something that the God of Israel, the God of the Jewish people, has promised in his eternal book, the Bible. That is the reality of whoever tries to come after us. And we will continue, despite your hatred of us, despite the fact that you come up with every anti-Semitic trope under the book, despite the fact that you are a stereotype. We will prosper and we will survive and we will continue to do our thing and continue to have massive positive impact. Yes, when it's misdirected, the Jewish impact can be highly negative, and that is a responsibility on us. And you're calling us out on that, and it is important that we remember that when we do badly with this massive responsibility that God has given us, the negative things happen. But you, Candace, are on the wrong side of history, and I'm sorry to tell that to you. Even if you're sitting in an interview with Tucker and you're talking about how much of a nice mom you are, at the end of the day, you are somebody out there who is growing a narrative against the Jewish people, not just against the state of Israel, even if you try and separate it. And that is just bad news for you. And with that, I will wish you adieu from Israel, the eternal land, the land that does not hate children, but rather prospers and tries to create families and create love, a land that is not a terrorist, but rather fighting terrorist entity, and the land which will last forever, whilst you, Candace, will not.